Hello everybody, today I'm going to be showing you how to get iMessage on Android. Let's get started. So the first thing you're going to need to get this up and running is a Mac computer. And that's a first step that a lot of people don't like because these computers can be hard to find, they can be expensive, you have to leave it somewhere in your house running at all times. I can understand all that, so if it sounds like you don't want to buy a Mac just to get iMessage on all your other devices, that's okay. At the end of this video, I'll highlight a few ways to do this with something like this iPhone 6s, for example, or even something like this iPod Touch 4th generation. Regardless of how you do this, you're going to need an Apple product, but the most seamless way to get it running on Android at least is with a Mac computer like this one. And I believe that the one I have right in front of me here is the best one. This is a Mac Mini 2009 model A1283. You can find these on eBay usually for around $60 to $80. If you're lucky and you look at the right time and in the right places, you can find them for about $50. But this particular computer cost me around $120, $130 because I put some upgrades in it. I put an SSD and I added more memory because I wanted to be able to use remote desktop on this computer so I could check in on it every now and then. But if that kind of stuff isn't important to you, you can just drop around anywhere from $50 to $70-ish and you can get yourself one of these computers and then get it set up. So the main reason that I recommended this computer above all the other ones was because it was the oldest and the cheapest that you can probably find that will work with this software. But the problem is this Mac only goes as high as version 10.11 El Capitan, and you're going to need at least version 10.13 High Sierra to have this officially running the software. So that's no problem. You can solve this with a USB drive. In this case I have an SD card plugged into an adapter. But all you need is a USB device that has at least 16 gigabytes on it, and then you can patch this Mac all the way up to Mojave, which is what I'm going to show you how to do next. This next step is for those of you that have a computer that doesn't natively run High Sierra. If your computer already runs High Sierra or higher, then you can skip this and I'll put a timestamp somewhere on the screen. But anyway, for those of you that need to patch your computer to be able to run macOS High Sierra, you're going to want to plug it in, insert your USB drive that's at least 16 gigs, and then for display we only have mini display and mini DVI. So if you're using HDMI, like most monitors do nowadays, you're going to need to use an adapter. So you're going to turn on your computer and I'll see you on the computer for the rest of the steps. Okay, so as we can see, this Mac is running El Capitan, but we want it to be running High Sierra or higher in order to run the iMessage software that we're going to be using. So in order to do that, we're going to need to go to dosdude1.com/High Sierra. And then here you can see which Macs this is compatible with. Now note, I'm only using High Sierra for this video for demonstration purposes. I would recommend going as high as Mojave because I personally haven't had any problems in patching the computer all the way to Mojave. Here you can take a look at which models can be patched with this tool. And while I wouldn't recommend Catalina, it's been about 7 months since I've tried this patcher, so maybe it's better now. So if you want to try it on your own risk, that could work maybe. Here is the list of approved computers to use the Catalina patcher, but I had some graphical problems as well as problems sending images and videos on iMessage when I tried Catalina. But once again, for this video, I'm just going to be using High Sierra. Now, I'm just going to be going through the steps that are already here. So the first step is going into disk utility. And I already did this, but I'll do it again to demonstrate. And you click on your USB device and you click erase. And you make sure it's on OS X extended journaled and the GUID selection is on. And you can name it whatever you want, but I'm just going to call it High Sierra. And then you erase it. And while that's happening, you download the tool, but I've already downloaded it, I'm pretty sure, so yeah, there it is, so I don't need to download it again. So once you download the tool, you want to extract it to your desktop. And because this is an app from an untrusted developer, you're going to need to go into your security preferences in order to be able to open it. As you can see, I have a pop-up here. I was having problems with being able to open it, so I would just suggest allowing apps from anywhere and then opening it. If you're uncomfortable with this, you can change it back to Mac App Store and identify developers after you're done opening the app. Okay, perfect. So now we can change this back. And now we need to download the operating system. So to do that, we can do it straight from the tools and then download macOS High Sierra. Yes. And I would recommend downloading it to your downloads folder because sometimes macOS makes your desktop and documents folder part of your iCloud library and you might not have enough storage, the syncing might not work properly, so just go straight into your downloads folder, select save location, and I'm going to leave this running. I'll speed it up for the video, but you can check on the download process by looking at the time in the top right. So I'll be back once this is done downloading. Okay, so the download finished, and as you can see, it will let us go straight into patching the USB drive, so we can click yes, and then make sure that here on your volume you select the USB drive from earlier, and I would suggest turning on the verbose output just in case anything goes wrong. You can see exactly where it happened, and then we click start operation. Put in your password. And I'll speed through this process too. However, I noticed on the website it says to make sure the SIP is disabled on your Mac before you do this, and I don't think I did that, so if this spits out an error, we'll do that next. Okay, perfect. The USB was able to be written to without any errors. Now I'm going to turn the computer off and make sure to do this step here, and I'll guide you through the rest of the install process, so I'll see you there. So now, to be able to boot into the update from the USB, depending on which keyboard you have, on a Windows keyboard you're going to press down the Alt key, on a Mac keyboard this is the Option key. You're going to press this key down, and you're going to turn the computer on, and you're going to press and hold this key the whole time the computer's turning on. We'll switch over to the monitor now. Okay, perfect. And once you see this menu, you can put the keyboard down, and then you're going to want to click on the yellow USB and click this arrow. And then it's going to boot into the update menu, and that's going to take a little while, so I'll speed through this process as well. Okay, perfect. So now that we're in this menu, the first thing we're going to do is go into the terminal to disable the SIP, like the instructions said earlier. So in here we're going to type CSRUTIL space disable, and then okay, perfect. It says restart the machine for the change to take effect. Just to be safe, I'm going to do that. And remember, when you restart it, hold down the Option key as well, or Alt on a Windows keyboard, and that way you'll go right back into the selection menu. So I'll do this on camera and speed through it. Okay, so we're back in this menu. We have successfully disabled the SIP, so now we can click continue and agree to the terms and conditions, and this is almost like a regular install of macOS. The only difference is we're going to be patching it. So now at this point I am simply going to install the OS onto my hard drive, and that's because I'm just upgrading from El Capitan to High Sierra. I can just update the OS as if it were normal. If you're on a higher version of macOS for whatever reason, or if you want to do a fresh install, you don't want to update, you want a brand new operating system, you can go into the disk utility and you can erase your hard drive right here and make sure it's formatted as macOS Extended Journaled. But I don't need to erase my hard drive, I can simply install the operating system on top of it, so that's what I'm going to do here. And remember, these instructions are only applicable to High Sierra. If you're doing this with Mojave or Catalina, be sure to follow DOS1's tutorials, either the written ones or the YouTube ones. And once again, this install is going to take a while, so I'll speed through it on camera. Okay, so I just checked the footage and it went from 11 minutes remaining to the install is complete. And I was just coming to check in periodically, so I would see 21 minutes remaining, 15 minutes remaining. So that's why I wasn't here when the computer rebooted. But anyways, you have to be there when the computer restarts, otherwise it'll just go into a black screen. And you have to be holding down, once again, the Alt or the Option key. You have to be holding it down so that you can get this menu. Because you've installed the OS, but it's not done yet because you still have to patch it so that it can run on the computer. So if you get the black screen, it's not a problem. You just have to turn off your computer, or it'll probably turn off automatically. And then turn it back on by holding down the Alt or Option key. Get back into this menu, go into the High Sierra USB. And once again, I'll speed through this. Okay, so now that we've installed the operating system, we're going to go right in here under the utilities to the macOS post install. And here it's going to say our detected model, and I've never had this be incorrect, but just double check to make sure it is. So my model is a Mac Mini 3.1, and it'll select the patches that it needs automatically. And then you're going to patch it to your hard drive or SSD, and you're going to click Patch. And this forced cache rebuild shouldn't be necessary, but if you have errors while rebooting and it doesn't work, then it will be. But for the most part, you're not going to need to check this box. You can just click Reboot, and it should boot straight into High Sierra for you to set up. Okay, perfect. This is exactly what we want to see. So I'm going to log into the computer. Okay, so now it's asking us if we want to install this patch. I personally am not going to need it because I don't really use this computer at all. So having the night shift working isn't that important to me, but let's just make sure the upgrade worked. We're going to go into About This Mac, and sure enough, it is running macOS High Sierra on a 2009 Mac Mini. So now I'm going to switch over to the computer and continue the rest of the tutorial from there. So now that we're back on the computer, we're going to go and download BlueBubbles. So we're going to go to the website BlueBubbles.app. And I'm going to go ahead and open the install page in a new tab because we need to download the macOS server. And you can see here, oh, I moved a little too fast there, but back there are clients for Linux, Windows, and Android. In this video, I'm going to be showcasing the Android build. So depending on when you're watching this video, there might be a newer version of the server, but as of now, it is version 0.1.13. So download the DMG file, and in the meantime, we're going to go into the install instructions. So step one we already did, it's downloading the server, and then step two we're about to do when the download finishes. Okay, I'm not sure why the download says it's taking so long, but I looked inside my downloads folder and it does look like it's done, so we're going to open it, and sure enough it is done. It was just stalling there. There we go, so I had some trouble opening it from my downloads folder, so opening it down here from the recent files seemed to do the trick. And once again, since this is an untrusted app, we're going to need to open our security preferences before we can open it. All right, now we want to drag the BlueBubbles app into our applications folder. Then we'll open the applications folder in the Finder. Perfect. Okay, so now we can eject the DMG. Now we open the app. And because it's from an untrusted developer, we're going to need to select the Open Anyway button in our security and privacy settings. And then click Open. Perfect. So now that the app is open, we're going to need to grant it full disk access and full accessibility access. The reason we have to do this is because it needs these permissions in order to be able to read the messages coming to and from the computer. If you feel like any of this could be unsafe, the code is all open source, so you can go in and check for it yourself. But all this is doing is being able to read your message data, which is exactly what you need this application for. So you go into your settings, accessibility, click the lock to make changes, and accept BlueBubbles. And I would also suggest, oh, that's not what I need. I would also suggest adding terminal, because it's also possible to run this app as an executable file from the terminal. So give it full accessibility access as well. And if you're on Mojave or higher, you're also going to need to grant it full disk access manually. But anyway, we can click the lock now. And server password, we're going to make this demo password. And we're not done yet because we need to have our FCM server. What this does basically is it refreshes the server every 7 hours. But because of that, your iMessage client on your Android phone or Windows and Linux PC, it has to manually refresh as well. So what this FCM server does for us is, one, it saves battery by taking care of the server while you're not using the app, and two, it also allows you to reconnect to the server seamlessly. That is if you're not using port forwarding. If you're using port forwarding, then it's a different story, but it's much more difficult to get set up. This is more seamless. Okay, perfect. So now what we need to do is go to the Google Firebase console and log in with your Google account. And I saw an option here that says skip FCM setup. So it looks like that is an option, but I would recommend just going ahead and doing it. On my phone, the battery saving is only about 2 to 3%, but on some other phones, it's anywhere from 20 to 30%. So it is an efficiency thing one way or another. So we're just going to follow the instructions on the website. We're going to create a new project. Okay, so our project is ready. Now we're going to go, first we need to go into build, real-time database, create database, next, and enable. And the reason we need this is because obviously you want your messages to be relaying in real time. Now we can go into the project settings and then service accounts. Okay, and we generate a new private key and it should download. Perfect. Okay, so it downloaded. And we're going to need to download one more file. Oh, okay, so we take that download. And go into the BlueBubbles app. And this JSON file goes into this server. Perfect. So now we're going to need to download one more file. Okay, so we go into General, Android, and you're going to put com.yourname and then register the app. So download the Google Services JSON file. Oh, I accidentally downloaded 2 of them. Oh, interesting. Didn't have any problems. And then you take the Google Services file and you download it to the client. Perfect. So now I hit continue. And you are ready to go. So I'll see you on my Android phone for the rest of the setup. Okay, so we're just about done with the most heavy parts of getting this set up on the Mac computer. Now we get to do the fun part of getting this running on an Android phone. Right here I have a Motorola running Android 8. This runs as low as Android 5. So what I'm doing in this video is for demonstration purposes. Obviously you don't want to share any of these details with anybody. You want your QR code and your server address to be private. But if you want to take a screenshot of your QR code so you can have it on another computer or on a phone somewhere, on a Windows keyboard you're going to hit Windows Shift 4. And on a Mac keyboard that is Command Shift 4 with the clover key. And you're going to get a crosshair just like this. So put it in one of the corners of the QR code, click and hold. And that way you can take a screenshot and you can share this via email or iMessage or however you want. And now on your Android phone, you're going to go into the Play Store and you're going to search for BlueBubbles, one word. Should be the first app that comes up. Okay, perfect. Now we open the app. Give it access to our contacts. And now we can either type in the server URL, or I think it's much easier to just use the camera and scan the QR code. Perfect. See how easy that was? And make sure you have at least some chats on the computer and you have the Messages app open. It doesn't have to be actually open, just make sure this little dot is under it. So you click it, and here you can see that I have a chat history. So download chats. Alright, and as you can see, there is my chat. I'm going to bring in an iPhone here, just so you can see that it does in fact work. So I'm going to emphasize this message, and you can see I received the emphasis. I'm going to say wow on the Android phone and send it, and you should see instantly it comes over on the Apple phone. On the Apple phone I'm going to say this is awesome. Whoops. And it came in instantly. So for basic functionality, you have fully fledged iMessage on Android right here. Once again, there are also apps for Windows and for Linux, and it runs pretty well. There are also beta features that you can get by joining the Discord, which is right here on their website. Here is their Discord. Here you can do things like sign up for betas, do feature requests, let them know if you're having any problems setting up the app. And here on the GitHub page, if you have any bugs, you can select what you're having the bug on. So let's say you have a bug with the server. You click server, go into issues, and then first check if anybody else has reported it. And if they haven't reported it, then click new issue, and you have to be signed in, but there you can report any issues you have with the server, with any of the apps. And these developers are really responsive. They're a great group of people. I've talked to them on the Discord. So I think this app is very promising. Let me know if you have any more questions down in the comments, and I hope this video was helpful. Thank you. Earlier in the video, I said that I would go over another way to run iMessage on other devices without using a Mac, and the way you do that is by using a jailbroken iOS device. So to check if you can jailbreak your iOS device, you want to head over to canijailbreak.com, and this has an extensive list of all the iOS versions and their available jailbreaks. The only thing that's a little bit different is the checkra1n jailbreak at the top that you see here. It says it's only compatible up to iOS 13.5, but on some devices it is usable on iOS 14 and 14.2, etc. So go to the checkra1n website to check if you can jailbreak your newer device. With that being said, I'm going to head into the first tool here, which is remote messages. Remote messages is a tweak that runs on iOS 5 through iOS 9, so it has the biggest install base. I was using it for many months and it worked wonderfully. You were able to send attachments, you can participate in group chats, the battery percentage of your devices in the corner. You can theme it however you'd like to. It's a very good tool. Unfortunately, it isn't developed for anymore, so any bugs that are there are going to stay there forever. Any enhancements cannot be made anymore because it is no longer being developed for. And also, it is hosted on a repo that you can no longer purchase it from. So unfortunately, you do have to pirate it to get it. And I would suggest donating to the developers, but their website is no longer up, so that's not possible. So unfortunately, if you want to use remote messages, you're going to have to pirate it. For legal reasons, I'm not going to go into detail on how to do that, but you have to use a tool that rhymes with lie down. Anyways, now we get into a bit more modern tweaks with iMessage by SparkDev. iMessage is alright. It works on iOS 10 through 13, but if you're on iOS 13, there is a better tool that I'll talk about a little bit later. iMessage is a Patreon tweak, so you have to pay to SparkDev's subscription in order to get access to it. I don't know if you have to remain subscribed for it to still work. I only used it for one day, and then I didn't really like it because you can't send files using iMessage. You can only send texts. You can view images, and you can view videos and things like that, but you cannot send them. And like remote messages, I'm pretty sure iMessage is not developed for anymore. It is no longer being updated. So only use it if you are on iOS 10 through 12. And honestly, if you can buy an old iPhone 4S or iPod Touch 4, iPod Touch 5 or anything like that and use remote messages, I would suggest doing that instead because I find remote messages to work much better than iMessage. And then finally, here we have SMS Server, which is what I currently use on an iPhone 6s jailbroken on iOS 14.2. SMS Server is great. It is free. It's open source. It's still developed for. It has just about any feature that you could want. You can send tapbacks from the web client. You can send subject text. You can see the group chat names. You can even see your pinned conversations for iOS 14. It's a really great tweak. The guy behind it is a wonderful developer. He listens to the bugs on his GitHub page frequently, and that's all I have to say on these jailbreak tweak versions. Obviously, this is just a highlight. It is by no means a tutorial or an in-depth look. If you guys would like to see more details about this, please let me know in the comments, and I may make a tutorial video in the future.